What are
I'm
some of
speaking
the
now for the House,
Sure.
in the House. But
what are some of the major obstacles, and some of the major solutions that you see in the Ways and Means Committee? Because that's the Money Committee.
well, we've got to get a good score. Some of us thought
What's that mean when you say a
well,
score?
the Congressional Budget Office, you'll say, if we make this policy change, what will it either add to or subtract from spending? And so they've given us a score on part of the bill that deals with long-term cost containment. Many of us feel we haven't made the policy changes there that would maximize that.
So that's what we're working on.
And that's
right
what
now.
we're working on. In other words, you're in Nashville, Tennessee, and you go to the hospital and so you've got the chest pain or whatever, and they give you a battery of tests to make sure you're not having a heart attack or whatever. A couple of weeks later, you were in Memphis. You had the same thing. You go to the hospital in Memphis, they run the same tests that were run 2 weeks ago, because we don't have what's called the IT in place in the system, so that the doctor, wherever you go, can look up your record and you can tell him where to find it, and say, well, you just had this test for sugar diabetes a month ago. We don't have to give you another one. There's all sorts of inefficiencies in the system that we need to address, in my view, before we put more tax money into a system that we haven't made more efficient. And so it sounds good, but it's very hard to do.
There's different plans that we talk about plans, or the president's plan. I noticed recently reporters going out and saying, well, do you agree with the president's plan or disagree with it? There is no president's plan, right? No. This is all evolving out of several committees in Congress. Maybe you could explain, this big is so big, you said it's so complicated, it goes across such a spectrum. There's more than one committee handling it in the House and more than one committee in the Senate. Could you run that over for us?
I could. I think the president was correct when he laid out his principles: deficit neutral, over 10, inefficiency. And then he said to Congress, here are the principles I would like to see. Work the legislative process and see if you can come up with a bill that's consistent with that. That's how it should work, in my view, rather than how it's worked part of this decade, where the White House gave a bill to Congress and Congress knee-jerk reaction and passed it as presented by the executive. But beyond that, you have 2 Senate committees that are working on this and 3 House committees. I'm reminded of the old story, a camel is a horse that was built by a committee. And we have 5 committees in Congress working. So it is...
5 camels working.
5 But it's no mystery that there's a lot of confusion in the minds of the public. What bill, where bill? There's there's confusion right here, because you've got this committee marking up part of the bill, this one another part. You say the Ways and Means Committee had one part, the Energy and Commerce Committee is working now.
While we're taping this
while we are talking,
the Energy and Commerce Committee is dealing with it.
And so when people call in and say, I'm against the bill, I say, wait a minute, there is no bill yet. All of this committee work has to be compiled. Then you'll have a bill that will be voted on the House floor.
Doesn't that mean in August we're going to go back and we're going to be talking about, here's where we are, here's some of the things we're dealing with, and we're going to try and put that bill together then in September, or a little bit beyond September, after we kind of vet this bill back home all across the country during August, right?
That's correct. And you were one that was great help in telling the House leadership we don't need to vote on a bill on the House floor. Get it through the committees, then put it all together, let people have a chance to digest it, understand it, and then we'll come back in September. The president's asked for a bill by the end of the year. I think we can get a bill. Now, we don't operate in a vacuum in the House. We'll have to see what the Senate says, both Senate Finance and the Commerce Committee over there, and then see what we can put together. It's the art of the possible around here. You have people of goodwill who have very different ideas on how to approach this. This is a big deal. It affects every human being that is an American. It affects a lot of money. And we need to take our time and get it right. And you and others were very, very helpful in getting us to the point where we could have August to go home and talk about it with our constituents.
How will we put this bill together? How are we going to synthesize all the various ideas and all the various committee bills? How do you think that's going to work, speaking as a member who has responsibility for the financial side of it?
Well, it'll be up, I guess, to the Rules Committee, because all three versions, the Energy and Commerce, Education, Labor, and Ways and Means Committee, all that work will go then, I guess, now to the Rules Committee. They will write a bill, and then I guess decide what amendments are going to be made in order when it goes to the floor.
So on the financing of it, what are some of the ideas that are now in front of the Ways and Means Committee to try and finance whatever bill comes out?
There was a surtax on incomes, adjusted gross incomes, above $500,000 a year. There were many others considered. I thought that what we needed to do was to see what policy changes we could make in the inefficiencies in the delivery system to see exactly how much money we have to have. It's going
So over August, when you go home and I go home, we'll both be looking at not just what was in the bill, but how to do the financing, and that's some of the things we'll be talking to our constituents about, right?
Sure.
Well, John, I thank you very, very much for the opportunity to speak with somebody who's well-versed in all that, and I'm proud to be one of your deputy dogs.
Well, Neil, we're proud of you, too, and we're going to miss you. You got another year here, so it'll be a wise gain and our loss around here.
Yeah. Thank you very much, John.
Thank you.
Aloha.
Aloha.